Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being on the call this morning. Kind of a fun, I don't know, quite a little bit challenging topic. I appreciate all of you that were able to send me some comments about what you're thankful for. I kicked a couple of them back because they were such long lists. And I think part of the challenge was to distill kind of what is the most important. In other words, if everything were taken away and you lost everything, what's the one thing that you would need to have back because you're so thankful for it? So without getting too, down in the mouth about that, I think we all do have a lot to be thankful for. And sometimes those things change by day. I know for me in my life and in my career and with my family, what I'm most thankful for this year might be different than what it was last year. Although there are some things that I think abide forever. So I'm going to play these screens and not comment because they're not my comments. There are other people that have contributed, and hopefully some of those of you that didn't get a chance to send in, these will resonate with you, and you'll feel very much the same about them. I think this next one is especially poignant. It's a little long, but for me, that's a huge wow. Very special for this person. So yeah, this is a good example. These are a lot of great things to be thankful for. So this year, what's the one thing that really is a standout for us? Boy, isn't that true. Even when you have a birthday, right? I'm going to open this back up again because I'm getting a lot of. Okay. Boy, isn't that true? Peace is everything. Contentment. So we got some special things going on here at Stonehurst. And then our last one is kind of a long one, but go for it. Read it. So there's a lot of psychologists who say that the attitude of gratitude, if that ability to remain thankful becomes part of your daily routine, you end up being a much more happy, productive, and contributory individual. I think that's probably right. That's tough today in today's society. We want things fixed. We want it our way. We oftentimes fail. I can think of myself fail to see what we should truly be thankful for. So again, thank you for all of you for contributing those. I know that those of you that did not get a chance to weigh in on those are also having those same kind of sentiments this time of the year. My family, my son and his wife and 2 kids and 2 dogs came in late last night from Houston. They're just staying for the weekend, but already you have that sense of the holidays beginning, and as stressful as that is, it's also a great time to be thankful for that family. So I wanted to add to this session on an article that I read that really resonated with me, and I'll tell you as we go through these, the ones that really speak to me, and I'd love to have you share if one of these jumps out at you. Hopefully you got a chance to download these. If not, do so afterwards so you can kind of study them. But we're talking here about some uncomfortable deeds that actually are going to pay off. Growing up, my mom would say things like, "This hurts me more than it hurts you," or "You'll be thankful for this later." And that was usually when she was either punishing me or correcting me or giving me some horrible tasting medicine or something. But I think that this is true, and it's the mark of a professional for you and me to take on those things that maybe do challenge us. None of us like to jump into areas in which we are uncomfortable or not do well. I think that this quote from T.S. Eliot, it certainly applies to me. I wonder if it applies to you. I don't normally seek out situations where I'm going to put myself in over my head. I usually go into situations or tasks or projects feeling like I can add value, feeling like I can influence or make a difference, I can resolve, I can move the project forward. So it's very hard for me to conceptualize putting myself in a situation that I don't really see how it's going to end up. I just know that I need to do this as an investment in me. So this is a lesson for me. If I need to put myself in situations where I'm in over my head. A couple of you mentioned this in your thankful comments, but I think we work with an organization, Alpha Barnes, that is willing to take the risk that you can do that and potentially fail initially, but be a safety net for you so you can learn and move forward. I think that that's been my experience. If anything, they're too forgiving. They're too nice about me missing a deadline or forgetting this aspect of the project or something. So I think we all are very fortunate. I hope you feel that same way too about working for Alpha Barnes. And then I do agree that this is true, that if you're not in some point of discomfort or challenge or feeling pushed kind of to the edge, then you probably aren't growing. And you don't have really an opportunity to play your best hand. When you're successful, oftentimes you feel like, and maybe you've known people like this who have kind of shut down and said, okay, I'm successful. This worked last year. It worked the year before. I'm going to continue to do it this way, instead of stepping out maybe of that comfort zone and saying, you know, what I'm hearing is we need to do it differently, and being open to change something that you've had success with. That's really hard. It's really hard to think differently about something that's worked in the past. And then our last little intro here is, this doesn't have to be anything large. It's not like a monstrous trip to climb Mount Everest. These kind of things show up in the things that you do every day. I think a lot of us can connect to a need to lose weight or to get in better shape, add some exercise, force ourselves to begin to try and learn something new professionally. And so it doesn't have to be a monstrous thing. It just needs to be something that challenges you to push those boundaries. So 10 areas that that may be uncomfortable for some of you, and I'd love to have you weigh in the chat box. For some of you, these may be more uncomfortable than others. They may be particularly challenges for you. We're all at different points in our own development, and so I'd love to have you weigh in on your findings there. So number one, now this is a challenge, right? Get up early, for Pete's sake. I'm not a huge fan of getting up early, but the message here is that, unless you're a morning person and really like to get up early, getting up earlier than usual can really take you way out of your comfort zone. If you get up well before you have to start getting ready for work, it can be worth it. So those of you that are early risers and purposely get up early, there's a preparation time when you can kind of think about what your day is going to be like, maybe what you need to do that day. So talk to me if you have any kind of impressions to share about why you get up early. I'm not a huge breakfast fan, and I'm not an exerciser in the morning. So maybe if I did some of those, I would, find my way getting up earlier. But if you have an opportunity to share, that'd be great, on why and what you do if you get up early, what you do with that extra 30 or 40 minutes. If you think of it, weigh in on that, and I will open up the chat box. So that's our first one. The second one, and notice where the quotation marks are here. We're talking about what appears to be, or maybe what you're thinking is, an impossible task. I can't. So we have a manager who says, I get up and read my daily Bible study, and then I have time for breakfast. That sounds wonderful. That sounds like a great routine in the morning to prepare yourself emotionally and your soul as well as physically in terms of breakfast. You have all kinds of great statistics about people who eat breakfast. So in this case, that goal may be way out there. It's like, oh, we can never get there, or oh, I'm not going to be able to do that. I can't do that. That's going to be too hard. It's going to cost too much, or whatever. All right, so I got to read this next one here. I wake up early because I'm a grumpy gills. I wake up, hang on, it just moved on me. I wake up and lay there. It gives me time to really wake up. And then I read David, Jeremiah, and Joel Osteen. I catch up on housework and do a daily devotional. So here are some tips for getting up early. Surf blogs I enjoy. I'm up at 3:30. Okay, folks, that is aggressive. I am up at 3:30, read the Bible, watch the news, cook my breakfast, and fix lunch, watch the sun come up. I love everything about that except the 3:30 part. I watch Christina television programs. I don't know what those are, but sounds like a good suggestion. I'm a mom of 3 young children, 3, 7, and 8. So I get up early to get them ready, pack lunches, drop them off early so I can have time to get a morning workout. I used to make excuses about not having time for myself to work out. Now I don't make excuses. I make the time. I'm not a morning person, but when I do get up early, I prepare breakfast for my son, and my son is not a morning person either. So both of us have a hard time getting ready in the morning. So true, so true. Yeah, so I admire you guys who do that and understand that time is something that you can control. People who say that they can't do something, maybe that means that they really can, but they choose not to. And, there's a statement about anything you want to do, you'll figure out a way to do it. So I think that goes hand in hand with number 2 here, is accomplish something that at least at first looks impossible. There's nothing like accomplishing something that you didn't think you were capable of. So these, it might be running a marathon or getting up in front of an audience and giving a speech or a testimonial. So these kind of accomplishments are worth every bit of the fear and the suffering and the dread that you endure to actually achieve the goal. It makes you feel, and I love this word, it makes you feel invincible. Wow, I did that. I think that's a lot of bucket list kind of stuff. People say these are the things that I want to accomplish, but seldom are those things in those buckets that are hard for you to do. They're mostly places to visit. Although I have seen some where it says apologize to everyone that I, injured during the year that I was drinking. AA has got those 12 steps, and those are part of the 12 steps that may be like, I can't do that. I can't possibly do that. So there's a lot to be said to and develop for you to accomplish something that's seemingly impossible. All right, so some of you do this already. There is a lot of proven physical evidence that shows that voice, those voices that are in your head. Okay, we've got somebody who just weighed in and said, and this may be an seemingly impossible task. My dad passed away earlier this year, and so I'm now responsible for my 17-year-old sister. So I'm trying to build a relationship with her, which is my goal. Wow, hats off to you. That's a seemingly impossible or certainly a difficult goal. And you're in a circumstance where that task was pushed upon you. Meditation would be, part of understanding how to manage that, because we all have got busy minds, we've got busy agendas. Some of you have got voices inside your head that are on some days are very, very loud. Some of it is negative speaking. You've got little voices are saying, well, you're not good enough, or you can't do that, or why did you wear that today, or all those little negative voices. And the challenge with meditation is to turn those into positive voices and to manage what those voices say. There's a neuroscientist who said that meditation actually creates physical changes in your brain. So listen to this. It increases brain density in the areas, so make a note of this, that are responsible for self-control, focus, problem solving, flexibility, and last and maybe most importantly, resilience. So that's a handful of fantastic benefits that occur physically in your actual brain due to meditation. And it doesn't have to be, 20 minutes of meditation, just 10 minutes of being quiet, of being calm, of letting your brain be open. So meditation. Oh, this is so true. Right? Where there's more and more scientific evidence that is showing this, that oftentimes multitasking, you do a lot of stuff, but nothing at 100%. So you push a lot, you accomplish a lot, but it's the quality of the accomplishment. So multitasking, taking on one task can be, dangerous. Well, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't we moving forward with that? And in our professional world, oftentimes we ask for that. They're very single focused. She can only concentrate on one thing at a time. So the question is that really something that's bad? So there's research that was conducted at Stanford University that confirms that multitasking is less productive than doing a single thing at a time. Now, that means you have to be efficient about that single thing so you can move on to the next single thing. But the researchers said that what they found was that people who are regularly bombarded with several streams of electronic information cannot pay attention. They can't recall information. And if you try to do two things at once, your brain lacks the capacity to perform both of them successfully. So think carefully about trying to do too much at one time. For me, I always have got a lot of things going, and I tend to stress myself out by thinking, okay, we need to work on the rent payment thing. We need to work on the holiday celebration. We need to work on this other webinar I need to write. I need to get out a 2018 training calendar. I need to preview videos for next year's safety videos. It's like, okay, wow, that's a lot of stuff that you got to get done. And I stress doing all of it. And yet, if I would just focus and begin, I can get it done and mark it off the list and move on to the next thing. I have to be very methodical about that. So interesting that research is showing that. This is huge. I can just tell you that I'm a member of ARP, the American Association of Retired People, because I'm old enough. And everything that you see that comes out of them that talks about longevity and being productive, they say that thinking more about giving back to somebody actually improves your introspection about where you as an individual are. So, I mean, you all are busy. We just looked at what some people are doing just in the morning when they get up, but you know, the problem is that, you know, after the end of a long workday, volunteering kind of gets pushed down. So any kind of opportunity that you have to volunteer, a lot of apartment associations, your local apartment association may offer you something where you can just step in and do some single task. I think people get concerned that volunteering means a huge commitment. Oftentimes it's just one thing. If you've ever met anyone who's made volunteering a priority and who wasn't changed for the better, I just don't think there's a person like that out there. For years, I would volunteer on Thanksgiving because my children lived away from me and they didn't visit me for Thanksgiving. So I did Meals on Wheels for several years. And that made me feel better about my Thanksgiving. I was at a point in my life where I wasn't cooking a big dinner and I wasn't, you know, traveling to see somebody. So I would do that. Now, I have to say that I have not done that in some time, but I get that feeling of giving back and how it does make you feel better about yourself. Someone weighed in here. People with ADD or ADHD have a hard time concentrating on one task at a time. Yes, that's true. So we got a LOL on that one. That is true. I'm not talking about somebody who is ill, obviously, but as much as you can train your brain to, you know, step away from those distractions, because they will distract you. I think juggling a lot of balls, you know, as managers, you all get that. There isn't a day that goes by that you're on the job that you're not got a couple balls in the air. So I get that, but being able to focus on one thing, maybe it's just simply one focus at a time. I'm going to do this first and then this second, even though you're juggling other balls at the same time. All right, here we go, number 6. Wow, huh? So for some of you, you know, there's research is saying people would rather die than get up in front of a large audience and speak. So this picture is kind of intimidating with all those microphones and back behind them this monstrous room full of people. But even if you take it down to speaking in front of a group of managers, believe it or not, there are some of our regional supervisors who are uncomfortable with that. They, for whatever reason, this is a real challenge for them. 74% of Americans have glossophobia. That is a fancy word for the fear of public speaking. So whether you're addressing 5 people around a table or 500 in a hotel meeting room, this is an important skill, an important, if you will, impossible goal to accomplish. It means you have to prepare. It means you have to practice. It means you have to say what you need to say succinctly and meaningfully. I teach people how to teach. I teach people how to facilitate learning, and can tell you from the material that we use how important it is to understand that contribution. So somebody just weighed in that they were in a youth group some years ago. Hang on, I'll get it right in front of me here so I can tell you it exactly. When I was younger, I was in a program that used to be called the Youth Opportunity. I had to do a speech in front of a couple hundred people. I thought I wouldn't make it, but I did. I am no longer afraid to speak to anyone. Wow. So very hard to put yourself out there. For some of you, if you serve on a committee, just standing up and talking to, your opinions or what your thoughts are on a topic in front of the rest of the committee can be intimidating. I'm going to tell you that every single one of you on the call brings your own unique perspective. You all have had experiences in the industry that no one can take away from you. And your experience is true, it's genuine, and that's correct. No one can call you ridiculous because you're recounting an experience that you had. We tell people to start by just recounting an experience, because that's something that you own yourself and no one can take away from you. So put yourself in that situation. Or if you find yourself in a group of people and you have a contribution to make, do not devalue that contribution. Stand up and say, I'd like to weigh in on this based on my experience. Go for it. Please go for it. This is, again, for some people, this is very hard. I taught a certified apartment portfolio supervisor class yesterday. It was the last class for this group. And in this particular topic, they take a little personal assessment that tells them a little bit about their own emotional intelligence. I should do that with us because I've got that document. I should do that with us. But anyway, and it rates you based on your answers on how you feel about being with others. And that your ability to communicate and to welcome change and being with new people, and those supervisors, one in particular, scored a high 5 in that area. And she's one of those people that you could drop into a room of total strangers. And I mean not even strangers in the industry, but just complete strangers. And she would be able to strike up a conversation, meet somebody, share, talk about a topic with people that they don't know. So unless and she's maybe an extreme extrovert, and so, that might be easy, but social interaction, in other words, interacting with other people, even if you don't know them, is actually good for your mood. Even if you don't like it. It's an elevator. It enhances your self-image of who you are. It expands your network, it boosts your self-confidence. So don't be afraid of these situations. Put yourself in, in most of the cases for us, you're going to be thrown into a situation where you at least share a common denominator. Like, for example, you're a parent and you go to a parent holiday event, or you are watching a child play on a team. So what these strangers have in common with you is that event or that engagement, or the fact that your children go to the same class or have the same teacher. So if that's where you feel best starting out, then walk over and shake your hand. I'm Jody's mom. What's the name of your child, or how do you like the way the school year is going this year? So you can have something where you can start to communicate. It's always easiest if you've had some kind of connection at some point. Oh boy. when I told that to my son, my son who's visiting with me, I said, I've got a webinar at 9 that I need to do. And, we're talking about 10 uncomfortable deeds. I said, and one of them is to just not say something. Oftentimes when people share their perceptions or their comments with you, they don't need you to weigh in. They need you just to listen. If your gut level reaction is to respond aggressively or passive aggressively or with a criticism, just be careful. It's sometimes best to say nothing. It's human nature to contribute. It's human nature to think that somebody's telling you something because they want you to weigh in, but that's not necessarily. So take the time to not knee-jerk respond, weigh the feelings, weigh what you're going to say or what you're thinking about saying before you say it. Consider biting your tongue and not saying anything. I live by myself, and so I tend to need to interact with other people that I trust to let me know that my opinion is too far-fetched, or my attitude toward that is way off to one side or the other, so that I don't make the mistake of not having someone to bounce your position off of, so that when somebody says something, you don't immediately react in a way that's very confining and maybe not the best way to encourage relationships. So bite your tongue. And this one, oh my gosh, this is your whole. This is not just saying no to assignments. This is about saying no to the voices in your head that give you that negative, mantra. You're not good enough. You'll never get it done. You've never been able to do that. Nobody likes you. All those little negative voices. So research at the University of California, Berkeley, showed the more difficulty that you have saying no, the more likely you are to experience stress, burnout, and depression. So let's first talk about the no for saying no to voluntary or additional assignments. Oh yeah, I'll bake pies for Thanksgiving dinner, and you've got all kinds of things going on. How am I going to do that? Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll run over to that other property and put in a couple hours for a couple of days, and maybe you can do that, maybe you can't. Maybe you can say, well, I can do it every other day, but I can't do it every day. The ability to say no without thinking that this reflects poorly on you. That's how I grew up in the business, is you just don't say no. That if you want to be the go-to guy or the go-to gal, then you got to always say yes. You got to always take on that new task. And I think I lived like that for a long time. And I think I'm a slow learner, but I'm learning that, saying no doesn't mean that you're just being mean. It means that you have a critical amount of respect for what's already on your plate. And if you constantly say yes, you're going to build up that stress component on you crazy. No is a powerful word. When it's time to say no, don't say things like, I don't think I can, or I'm not certain. Just say that my schedule is full, I can't take that on at this time, so that it doesn't completely shut the door or show that you are incapable of doing it. When you learn to say no, you free up your time and energy, and you actually identify, and I think this is critical for a professional, you identify what's most personal, what's most important, either in your professional life or in your personal life. It's kind of like when I ask you to tell me what you're most thankful for. We can all come out with a list, but if somebody says, right now, what's the most important? It requires you to prioritize. It requires you to say no to some things. And that's very hard for some of us. And then this. All right, so I already talked about this. I'm somebody I tend to procrastinate a little bit. And sometimes I'm disrespectful of urgency. But once I start, I'm great. It's just, I'll do it later. I have one son who's like that, and the other son is completely the opposite. I'll do it later. Don't worry about it. Kind of real easy going. And I think some of that is good, but change is hard, and putting things off is easy. So scrounging up the guts to go for what you want to do, and it's hard, and the work to make it happen is sometimes off-putting, and maybe you can't take it on, and we'll put it off, and we'll tackle that, paying back that loan next month, because this month we're a little pressed for cash. Well, next month comes along and you haven't focused on it or set aside the money, so now you're putting it off again. So this comes to bite us in both our professional life as well as our personal life. So do it. It kind of goes along with be ready to put in the hard work that needs to get done. Sometimes for me, sometimes it's not hard work. It's just sitting down and beginning. The more you think about it, the more you think about that list, guess what? The more stressed you get. So put it in order and then get going. So the bottom line for all of these screens is really this one. Keeping yourself comfortable, keeping yourself successful at the same pace that you've been successful. You've had great response to what you're doing. There's really no reason to change, but there really is. Because if you're not changing, if you're not challenging yourself, if you're not trying to do something different or learn something new, you really are in that comfort zone, and it's confining. It's confining. So any comments about that? Any comments about any of that? Did any of those particularly resonate with you? Any of those 10 that really stuck out for you? Let me kind of recap them. So number 1 is to get up early. 2 is accomplish an impossible goal. Meditate. Focus on one thing at a time. Volunteer. Practice public speaking. Talk to someone you don't know. Bite your tongue. Say no. And quit putting things off. So I'm sure 1 or 2 of those resonated with you. I see somebody just wrote in impossible goal for sure. Holding my comments and advice. So just, zipping the lip and being there, supportively listening, but not always weighing in. I think you don't always, and you as managers and your supervisors, perhaps me as a supervisor too, I always felt like you wanted me to weigh in, and that's not necessarily true. I had to learn to accept the apology I will never get and forgive. Oh boy, that's a big one. I also had to learn that it is okay to not be perfect, a perfect mother. I also have to learn to say no to my son. He eats my wallet. Oh my gosh, how many of you can identify with that? Being a very opinionated person, number 8, bite your tongue, is the most difficult for me. I respect that comment because that's me too. That's me too. And unfortunately, some people have told me, well, I'd love to talk with you about issues because I'm always going to get a perspective or a discussion or a question. And so that's not good because that just kind of feeds the bad till. I need to, recognize those times when I do need to be quiet. Yeah, so setting a goal and being thankful. Maybe the most important thing is to be thankful for the opportunity to continue to learn and grow. Maybe that's one of the best things. So this is our last session before Thanksgiving. So hope everybody has got plans that, let's see, what are the all the F's for Thanksgiving? Football, family, friends, food, fun, festivities. I live in Farmers Branch, and they start the big light show the Friday after Thanksgiving. So there'll be cars nonstop. They run it from 6:30 to 9:30. There'll be cars nonstop every night between Thanksgiving. Oh yeah, there you go, Black Friday. Although I don't know, aren't you hearing that Black Friday's starting now for a lot of retailers? They're giving you all kinds of great prices now. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. I appreciate, I know that everyone at the corporate offices appreciate what you and your teams do on the line. You are Alpha Barnes in every sense of the word. So best wishes to you and for a great Thanksgiving, and we will talk to you next month. Have a wonderful holiday. Bye-bye.